we heal in the present moment.
Amen.
So what I'm doing in this moment, is it helping me live a thriving life beyond the grip of addiction? Or is it feeding the old program and spinning me right back into it?
Yep.
And that's how we keep choosing. Our choices determine what's happening.
Yeah.
It's so important.
Welcome to the Everyday Epigenetics Raw, Real, Relatable podcast. I'm your host, Susan Robbins, epigenetic human performance coach. This is where we discuss all things lifestyle, environment, food, exercise, work, mind, and social interaction as they pertain to epigenetic expression in a way that's relatable to everyone. So if you're ready to start viewing you as an individual, take control of your life and health, and get results, buckle up. Here we go. Welcome to the Everyday Epigenetics Raw, Real, Relatable podcast. I'm your host, Susan Robbins, and this is a place where we talk about everything lifestyle and environment and how it affects our genetic expression. But yeah, this is where we talk about everything in environment and lifestyle. And today we're going to touch on a topic that I think might be a little touchy for some people to listen to. But I think I did a podcast on cancer where I said this has touched everybody's life in some way at some point in their lives. This is another one that I think has touched every single person, again, including my own. It gets me emotional because I've had people very close to me that this resonates with. This is why Raw, Real, Relatable. We're going to be talking about epigenetics and addiction and alcohol specific today. I have a fantastic guest. Her name is Elizabeth Kipp. Elizabeth is a stress management and historical trauma specialist who uses trauma-trained and yoga-informed addiction recovery coaching, ancestral clearing, compassionate inquiry, and yoga to help people with their healing. Elizabeth herself is healed from over 40 years of chronic pain, including anxiety, panic attacks, and addiction. She's in long-term recovery, and she guides others to unleash their healing power, find freedom from suffering, and live a thriving life. We're all about living thriving lives here. She's the best-selling author of The Way Through Chronic Pain, Tools to Reclaim Your Healing Power. And Elizabeth, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Susan. I'm so glad to be here. This is a powerful topic.
Yeah, so I was just going to say, when I saw your name come up and you said what you did when I was looking for podcast guests, and saw the alcohol, the addiction and all, I just said, I've been wanting and needing someone to come on and talk about this because this is so close to my heart. I am a retired police officer, and I can tell you that I started in Colorado, but where I spent 12 and a half years of my career, the last 12 and a half years in Montana, the alcohol was rampant. It was an old mining town. The mine had closed. There were bars on pretty much every corner. And I'd say just about every call involved alcohol, domestics, child abuse, just the drinking and driving. It's just bad. And then I have my own personal experience. My cousin, who is, and I had said this to you earlier, was my person growing up all my life. And it started, I wanted her to do the honor of pinning on my badge when I graduated the police academy in 2002. And she couldn't, we're all excited. And a few days before she said, I can't do it. I'm an alcoholic and I need to go into rehab.
Okay.
And I was shocked. I had seen her just a few weeks prior to that. She came here to visit and she kept saying she wanted to go get wine. She wanted to go get wine. And I loved wine. I didn't really think much about it. And we're walking down the street in downtown Denver, and it was the summertime. We were going to go to a football game, and people were sitting outside from different restaurants, in the outdoor seating. And I kid you not, there was a couple seated right at the edge there of the divider. And she went by, she said, oh my God, can I have a sip of your wine? And I about shit myself, Elizabeth. I go, what? And they go, sure, go ahead. And I was so embarrassed, not just for myself. I was embarrassed for her. And I thought, this is weird. And
That's
I
uh-huh.
continued to notice that she was drinking. That's an alcoholic. But I didn't, at that time, I wasn't. And I was also married. My first husband was an alcoholic. He was one that didn't need to drink, but when he did, it got bad. But I just wasn't around it enough to see. And it had been years since I'd been around anything like that. And ended up on a show Intervention where she was actually drinking rubbing alcohol.
Oh my goodness.
Okay. A regular in the hospital with
She's lucky to be alive.
BAC. It was bad. I just didn't know who she was anymore. And we had reconnected a couple of times. I tried. And because here I was a cop. I want to help. I want to help everybody. Right. And finally, I had to walk away. And I walked away for good about 3 years ago. We had a 17-year break. I think it was. I hadn't seen her in 17 years. I said, I can't do this anymore. But 3 years ago, she assured me she was sober, and I found out she was not. And I said, I can't do this anymore. And it's the hardest thing to do, to walk away. But the destruction of her family, not just me, but her family, children, husband, her jobs, relationships, and you say someone has to hit bottom. But when I talked briefly about this earlier, you said something, you quoted, and I want you to repeat that.
Yeah, I had a friend of mine who's longer recovery than me. She said to me one time when I had a similar problem and I had to do the same thing, she said, never rob someone of their bottom.
That is so profound.
And we call that a sacred bottom. We in recovery, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you know why? That's where we finally tell the truth.
Mm-hmm.
When we hit the sacred bottom.
And do you find it though, there's some people that will never get there? They think they bottomed out, but they will never get to that point.
The gift of recovery is that you get to a bottom and you rise. Otherwise, the alcohol will take you out. It's going to take you to, what do they say, jails, institutions, or death.
Yep.
So it's rather stark, but the uneducated need to understand that's actually the lay of the land.
Yeah, it is. It is.
That's actually the landscape between your experience as a police officer going on calls and all the witnesses. Most of your calls, if not, I don't know, like 98, 99% of your calls were alcohol related or drug related. That's amazing to me. That's astonishing, actually.
I'd say probably, God. And I worked public housing. There was alcohol or drugs involved in the majority of my calls, I'd say, in some aspect, some form.
So between your experience and then on the other side, the side of recovery, where we're in the rooms of recovery, unfortunately, they end up being, there's a lot of anonymity in the space. Mm-hmm. People don't want to be labeled as that, which I stand as somebody, I'm in recovery. I don't name other people in recovery, but I name myself because I feel like, why don't we shine some light on the problem?
Yeah.
The best disinfectant for a problem is to shine light on it.
Agree. And right. I think alcohol is such a huge part of everyday life for so many people around activities, social, even with my clients. And I'd like to talk a bit about the effects of alcohol. Andrew Huberman did one of the best podcasts I've ever heard. Have you listened to that one on the effects of alcohol on the brain?
He's amazing.
Yeah, that's why I like cold turkey. I started at the age of 14. I've never had a problem with alcohol. I used it as an escape mechanism when I was younger, of course, but as I got older, I never had an addictive issue, which was great and easy for me to walk away from when I found out I had the increased risk for Alzheimer's. Brain, hello, the connection, right? I was just like, done. I don't, as much as I loved it, I don't need another Argentine Malbec the rest of my life and call it good. But just talking with people and clients, alcohol is the hardest thing to walk away from. And so much of it is the social aspect. And because it plays a part. And people, even when I first started, I still to this day, people say, oh, come on, one's not going to hurt you. But why do you have to have me drink to make you feel better about you drinking? Is really what it comes down to.
That would be some of the subtext for sure.
Yeah.
And then another question would be, why do you think I need one? Like
Exactly. I'm fun,
so,
damn it.
but it's
Fun
important.
without.
I feel like it's important in that space because now you're faced with someone who's defensive about their behavior and they're trying to enlist you in theirs.
Yep.
So if I put out another comment that makes them more defensive, I'm not getting anywhere in that conversation. So kindness and some humor and some understanding I have agency over my life and enjoy your drink kind of thing. So
Yeah.
that you're at least coming from neutral,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
feeding the problem more.
Yeah. Agree. So what are some of the what do you feel are some of the effects of alcohol on the brain or the body that are
This is a sugar problem. And really sugar, in my case, and in the case of pretty much everybody around me, sugar was the gateway drug as me as a child. And it started early. Actually, that's not true because my mother drank while I was in the womb with her. So
started really early?
there was alcohol there, and then there was cigarettes, and she didn't know any. They just the information was not available in her world around that. So, right as infants, now we have to when we're born as babies, now we have to detox. And she didn't breastfeed me for various reasons, and so I was fed formula. And what's in the formula? Sugar.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
So yes. So now we've got a physiology that's set up for sugar. And Andrew Huberman, who I would everybody please go listen to.
Listen to them on alcohol.
He'll geek out on the science, but he's also really good at. You'll get the science, but you'll also get the kind of the layman can listen to it. I have a science background, and I can keep up with him, but then he goes by beyond me, and then he comes back to regular guy. so that's very helpful. But the sugar thing, really, one of the things we've learned in the last, I don't know, 15 or 20 years is that we've got this microbiome in the gut. It's connected up into the brain.
Mm-hmm.
So if we have digestive issues, we also have brain issues.
Sure.
Right. And one of the things that happens, we have cravings. One of the things that happens is we've got, I'll just blow everybody's mind for a minute. 90% of the DNA in the human body is not human. It's critters that help us digest our food.
Oh, yep.
Yeah.
I never
So
thought about that.
That puts that puts an exclamation mark on. It's not me. I'm a community. I'm a community, and now my conscious mind, as much of it as I can get that's conscious, I need to be responsible about what I'm feeding myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I say with food, which includes anything we're imbibing at all, anything includes alcohol, sugar, anything. Good information in, good information out. Junk information in, junk information out. I try and keep that really simple.
Yeah.
For me.
Makes sense. Yeah.
And I work with sugar addiction as a part of my work. So food addiction and sugar addiction, all part of it. So the critters in the gut, there's a lot of different varieties. There's all kinds of species, right? Depending on what we feed them, depends on their population rise and fall and the balance of the population in there. And when we start bringing in sugar, the bacteria in there that love the sugar, their population blooms, right? And here's what happens, because I've done this. I've been hooked on sugar. When I decide to stop eating sugar, I get a big craving. And the craving is the critters in the gut are saying, hey, where's my sugar? And they're sending a signal from the gut up into the brain. And then there's a whole physiology, behavioral thing that goes on with that. And Andrew Huberman can like detail that out all for you, just great. But I'm giving it like the cliff notes or whatever, so we can move on with the conversation. So it's not just about will. It's not just about the craving in the brain circuit by itself. It's also fed by the bacteria. So you've got a circuit in the brain that's used to a habit. This is how we do life. This is how we do life. We do it like this. And when we try and go against that, now we've got a problem. And we've got the gut saying, hey, what about me? And that's a very powerful signal. And it's unconscious. We just know we have a craving. And we don't really know how to deal with that.
Yeah.
That's where I come in as a recovery coach. And that's why I bring yoga in. Because if you have a craving, you can just breathe in on the left nostril, just close off the right nostril and breathe on the left. Inhale, nice long exhale, keeping the exhale as long or longer than the inhale. Breathe just on the left side for 3 minutes and it'll calm a craving.
Really?
Yeah.
And I teach I'll do the one nostril, alternate nostril breathing for relaxation. To calm my perceivers, my sensors down. But yeah, this totally, so just cover one nostril just for 3 minutes. And
there's a difference between left nostril breathing and alternate nostril breathing. We do that all the time as a teacher and in my own practice, my own personal practice. It balances both sides of the brain and it balances the emotion. And in that way, it calms the whole system. And you're doing that long exhale. So you're stimulating the parasympathetic that way in a very balanced way. When you breathe in the right side, the right nostril, it stimulates the energizing center of the brain. And when you breathe in the left side, it stimulates the calming center in the brain. So now when you're doing alternate nostril breathing and breathing one and then the other and then the other, you're bringing this beautiful balance into the whole system. But if you've got anxiety, if you're heading into, you're all activated and you feel like you're about to have a panic attack, or hopefully you're not even that far, but you're feeling anxiety, or you've got a craving where the nervous system's activated like that, just breathing in on the left side, you're gonna tap that, leverage that power of breathing in on the left side. Hits the calming center of the brain.
I love it. So I have a client right now she's telling me the cravings are so bad. She's just having crazy cravings. And I'm going through all the things that I know. And it's a long list. But not that.
It's just another one. It's an important tool.
It's a great tool.
Also, she really needs to get her gut flora and fauna.
Oh yeah,
that's a big piece of it. But she can calm that intensity. She can calm that down. And you know what's really cool about that is, remember I said the nervous system gets in a habit. It gets in a stress habit. Sure. And so you need to actually address that at the nervous system level first.
Agree.
The mind follows the nervous system, right? Yeah. So we have to start at the nervous system levels. So if we do the work to calm the body in that heightened state, then the brain is getting the message, oh, we're doing it differently. So you're starting to, if you practice, this is why we practice, right?
To create another routine.
You're actually shifting the programming in the brain so that it's now, we have a new habit. And it's finding safety in that new habit because it's in a calm state. So there's a lot happening there that you can, left nostril breathing, and get used to bringing it in as a tool along with the other ones that you use. So the sugar issue with alcohol is the thing. So you've got the gut imbalance, you've got the communication up into the brain, and you've got this craving thing that happens. But I like to look below the addiction.
Okay.
So as she said, chronic pain sufferer, right? So I've never met anybody in recovery that wasn't a chronic pain sufferer first.
Really?
And I haven't met anybody and I've met thousands of chronic pain sufferers over 4 decades. So tons of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
I haven't ever met a chronic pain sufferer that didn't have unresolved trauma in their system first.
Huh. Yep.
So now we get to the belly of the beast here. And we're looking at, I'm using alcohol as a way to cope. It's a strategy to keep myself safe because that's the best way I know how. It just happens to be a really unhealthy way. So this is not about a moral failing. This is about a strategy that's an easy one to pick up. And unfortunately, alcohol gives us the illusion that it's a solution, but it's not a solution to that.
No, no, it just creates more problems.
Yeah, it creates all these changes in the brain. And in order to heal, we have to heal the changes in the brain. We have to bring in modalities that heal those changes. Yeah. That's the work that you and I do. We're actually healing the brain. That's the work we're doing.
Down to the working with the unresolved trauma part? Or yeah. Okay. How are you? So tell me more how you're working with that.
Again,
and this is specific to the people that are in recovery or wanting to be in recovery, correct?
Yeah. If I have people that come to me that are alcoholic, I send them to treatment. They have to go I help them get there, but they need to get. The problem with alcohol is if you're an alcoholic and you just decide to stop drinking, you can have a seizure and die. So you really need medically supervised help, which is why treatment centers are so important, right? So just making that really clear. Once they're in recovery, the nervous system, like the brain is, what happened? And the nervous system is like, hey, we were doing this thing and now we're not. And now what do we do? And I've been through that I was on opiates and benzos for a long time to deal with my chronic pain problem. They were all prescription, but it was still a mess. And I know what that feels like. I know it. So it takes a while. It's called PAWS, post-acute withdrawal syndrome. And so that's the nervous system. Now what do we do? And there's certain kind of symptoms of that, and then there are certain modalities you can bring in, and it all starts really with the nervous system. Teaching people how to breathe, really addressing, because there's a very powerful connection between a long exhale on the brain and the parasympathetic nervous system, which tells the body to calm down. So if you can teach them to leverage the power of the breath and do this breathing so that it's long, deep breathing, but that exhale is as long or longer than the inhale. Now you're putting the nervous system, it's getting the message that it's safe. And that's the first step into healing from trauma, is feeling safe.
Getting out of that fight or flight.
Yeah. And then the second thing you want, because there's really a hierarchy to healing that Dr. Bruce Perry brought in. Second thing is connection. So in trauma, we get disconnected from ourselves. We're so busy guarding and that we've disconnected from others, we've disconnected from source, we've disconnected from our authentic self because we're so busy guarding and putting masks on to keep ourselves safe, right?
100%.
So that second layer, that second piece there is reconnection. It's a sense of belonging back to me, belonging to others. For me in recovery, it was like I had to belong to others first to even get to me. That's how that worked. Now, in my case, I always had a connection to a higher power, my version of a higher power, but it was just it was nebulous compared to what it is now. The drugs and the alcohol, they create this veil between us and it and others and ourselves, and it creates this veil, right? So second one is connection. So you need to get in community with people and feel like you belong, like sense of belonging. Then you can learn. You can't learn with a dysregulated nervous system.
Mm-mm.
That part of the brain is offline because you're back in the fight, flight, run, shut down, all of that.
Yep.
So
They can
second
retain
one,
anything. Yeah.
then you feel a sense of connection. Now I can learn. Think about yourself in school when a teacher freaked out. I know for me, I would just go into this freeze and I could not think. I was just like,
Yeah.
because now I'm freaked out and I don't belong in. I'm disconnected from the teacher. Same thing. Yeah, it's just a silly example, but I think all of us have had that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I can vividly remember it several times, even back in my childhood. And I want to touch on what you said about the veil, drugs and alcohol providing that veil.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another reason why I've never even, I don't want to drink anymore, because I've become so conscious of the things around me and myself and people that I don't feel that we can be fully aware if we're drinking or doing any type of drug.
Exactly.
It will keep you from that consciousness that attains you that higher level, that higher vibration. Those things just bring it down.
Exactly.
And then until you're not doing it, you don't typically see that. But it is a massive veil. And I was just speaking to someone last week, and she's had so much trauma. And I contract with a thyroid hormone specialist a couple days a week, and she was one of my people from there. And I said, because I know her health type with what I do with the PH 360 is a very social animal.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to her, she just suffered a major loss. And I said, connection is huge for you. Who do you have? And she said, my husband. And I just felt this energy I said, I'm detecting like a wall. She said, I have a huge wall up. I've pretty much I have closed myself off to everybody because of the trauma. So what you said exactly was this. And I said, we need to get some help energetically to release that, because you need connection. It is so crucial for this healing. And to have these walls up and go through life like that, I can't.
Oh, suffering.
That is complete suffering, to where she was very emotional. And I started to well up. I'm emotional. I could feel this energy, because I think it's probably the first thing that struck a chord with her. Everything has been all physical. And I said,
well, you just
connection.
were able to put a little crack in that wall.
Yeah.
Which is
and you
which is
saw it.
extraordinary, because think about it, when we rest, we can digest. But when we run, we can't run and rest, and we can't run and digest. It doesn't work like that.
No.
We can't connect when we're defended.
Exactly.
So that's another reason why we have to come at the nervous system level, because when the nervous system level is in that defended space, I don't care. You can't think your way out of that.
No.
Actually, you have to breathe your way out of it and co-regulate your way out of it. You have to, So
I've been there myself, not to that degree but different times where I've had to close off, and you feel that it's a whole different energy, and you literally can feel this wall up in front of you that just no one's going to penetrate this right now, because I can't allow it for whatever the reason is.
Yeah. And just the tone of your voice. When you said my husband, I heard in that, and he's not any help either. That's what I heard.
Her husband?
The way you said that, I was like, oh my God, she's not getting any help there.
And I think they have a really wonderful relationship.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
But at some point, if that's the only person you go to, that's the only one. And you don't want your mate to become your therapist. And
Oh,
how
I
often, right?
can't
And then it's all these, I want to bitch and moan. And it's just like if you just have that one friend to go to, which is great to have a great friend to be able to confide in and be yourself with and be open. But and her type is very nurturing. They're the ones that want to take care of everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So she said, I have family and they've offered, but I don't let anybody in. And that's the detriment to this type too, is that I can't let anybody else in because I have to take care of everybody else. So when you can change that dynamic though, to say, I need help too. And if you don't even have to say it's, I need help, but to just reach out and say, I'd like to connect. It can really be a game changer to open up, but just to see the emotion in her, well, it was just such a powerful feeling. And if nothing else, it at least opened her up to that awareness that this is a big part of it.
Great job. You just
Thank
like, you got in there and just massaged that whole thing. I love it. That's great.
Unreal. That's I did. And I say the whole energetic thing, and I don't know if it's because I'm, like I said, I don't do any alcohol, drugs. I'm all super healthy lifestyle, which is probably why I'm still single, because I'm trying to find a dude that's the same type of lifestyle. There's not a whole lot of it. I think there's more of us coming into play, but I say it's a blessing and a curse because it allows me to see and feel so much more around me energetically. But I can pick up on things. You just pick up, you can feel it. Even just a text with somebody. Ooh, I feel the energy coming through, and it's, hey, that's either really good or, ooh, those words were biting. You're just reading them. You can pick up, you can look at someone's face and see that something's not right. And I don't know, blessing, curse, I don't know. But if you pick up on someone else's energy, it can last. That's why I have to go to my energy person and go get rid of this shit, because I know it's not me. And you literally feel it. It's crazy. And it's just been in the last few years that's really started happening with me. I don't know.
We tend to vibrate. Yeah, that's something we work on in yoga, by the way. And
Elizabeth.
it's something that we work on in ancestral clearing. We have that thing about taking other people's stuff on. We tend to take on the burdens of our parents. That's a thing. And I tend to agree with one of my teachers that talks about, if I'm at a party and I'm like feeling like I'm picking up on other people's stuff, I'm probably vibrating at the same frequency that they are. And if I'm not enjoying it, I need to raise my vibration.
Yeah. That might be leaving that party.
And that might be leaving and going
Right?
and doing some long deep breathing for a while. or whatever. There's all kinds of ways you can raise your vibration. But yeah, so that's important for me that's why awareness is another great thing.
Yeah.
What's happening with me? I'm having this reaction. What inside of me is reacting to that kind of thing? That's helpful to me. And now I'm learning.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Evolving my old program into something new.
Mm-hmm. I love it. And you brought up kids taking on their parents' things. And when we were kids, we got to go out and play and have fun. And it's a very different environment for children now. They are, a lot of the times, because of, you see a lot of alcohol or trauma, whatever, the kids are parenting their parents.
Yeah, that's a big problem.
I think that leads to the drugs, the alcohol down the way.
This is children being traumatized by having to deal with their traumatized parents.
Yeah.
They're more in a vicious cycle.
Are you seeing any younger people coming through in recovery?
What I'm seeing, yes, but on what I'm seeing that really disturbs me is the high suicide rate. That it hurts for me just to say that.
Uh-huh.
In the teen years, it's just
in the teen years.
Yeah, it's astonishing. When I first 10 years ago, for me, what I saw and the Narcotics Anonymous rooms, because that's where I went mostly. I go to AA rooms too, Alcoholics Anonymous rooms too, but mostly I saw these young people come in and cutting.
Oh,
That was their thing.
I can't imagine.
And as a chronic pain sufferer, having gone through my own journey with that, and chronic pain, by the way, we'll just define it for the listeners. Chronic pain is any pain that's felt 15 days out of 30 for 3 months or more, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, financial. It all sends the same signal to the brain. It hurts. Yeah. So a
Oh,
divorce.
wow. So it's not just a physical pain that you're talking about. Wow.
Yeah. It's all the same signal, and it changes the brain like addiction changes the brain. But by the time people get into addictive stuff, they've already got a chronic pain problem. And we've got a whole podcast on that. And I do have podcasts on that. But that's an issue right there where the in cutting, the cutting thing, which is, I'm not a psychiatrist, so I don't have that background, but from my own personal experience of being in pain, it's like the way I see that, and from the kids I've talked to, they're in so much emotional pain that they turn to physical pain to shift their attention away from that. And that to me is, and that's happening with teenagers, and that was happening 10 years ago, like a lot. And now it's gone from that to this other thing. So that's what's got me alarmed. Yes, there's younger people in the rooms, but there's younger people with all kinds of problems. And that's to me more about probably screens and the state of society and the state of parenting and the support the parents don't get, and we got a lot of work to do.
I agree. I agree.
A lot of work to do, man.
Yep. I agree. Yeah. Like I said, I even saw it just with my old job. I remember when I was a kid, and still, if a cop came up to you and said something, you were like, yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. But there weren't many females. So I was just like, I had never seen one when I was younger, but there was a respect there. And I was shocked. Like, I went up to a group of kids and I said, hey, what are you guys doing here? Because it was on a housing development property and they were congregating, and I just walked up very politely and I was, hey guys, what's up? And one girl turned around to me and she said, my parents said, I don't have to talk to you, fuck off.
Whoa.
And I was like, what? And the sad thing was, I encountered that more often than not.
Oh my goodness.
And it's just, what are these? A 5-year-old girl at public housing came up to me. I used to go, they would have in the summers, they would have free lunches for the kids. And so I'd go and talk to them and everything and show them that I'm not a threat. I'm there to help them and create a safe environment for them. And so I was walking one little girl back to her apartment and she said, can't make this up. This is a quote. My daddy said cops are pigs, but I don't think you're a pig, Susan. I think you're nice.
There you go.
And so these are the environments that these kids are coming out of. And then you would see the drugs and the alcohol, and some of them would make it and some of them didn't.
That's
like
right.
You said, that tier. I think the work you're doing, tell us more about the actual work you're doing to help people. And again, you just totally blew my mind with the chronic pain. The only thing I've ever thought of with chronic pain was chronic physical pain due to injuries, illness, things like that. But you just blew my mind with this whole list of things that you went over.
Yeah. So chronic pain, it creates these changes in the brain. It's a stress response that's gotten stuck in the on position. It's that way out of balance. So we're at hypervigilance. And what happens in the brain, I'd love to hear Huberman do a podcast on this. I would love
Andrew, listen. If you're listening, bro, help us out.
That it creates chaos in the brain. And it also hits limbic system so that the emotions are now, they're out of balance. And so and this is my book, part of my book was to give voice to what it sounds like on the inside of a chronic pain sufferer. That was one of the reasons why I thought my book would be helpful, something different. Right?
Love it.
So now where I can't think straight, and now I'm going to be really I'm already defensive because I'm in pain, but I'm going to be really defensive because now I can't think straight. I don't want anybody to know that, right? I want to be normal, right? And I'm not. And I can't remember stuff. And now I'm blaming outside. Maybe I'm blaming God for my pain problem, or maybe I was in an accident. And I'm blaming in my case, I landed on a rock and broke my low back, the low part of my back. And I know my boy, when he was about 4, he said, "Aren't you mad at that rock, Mom?" It was classic, right? It was a great thing for as a parent, though. I was like, I made peace with that a long time ago.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. But that was a great question. That was a really, I want you mad at that rock. But we're mad at the world. But when most often, so you'll get people that are mad, grumpy, and you know those people. But also then we turn it in on ourselves. And now we've got damage that's serious. And if we've got unresolved trauma, we're just exacerbating that problem because there's a whole physiology that comes into play with chronic pain. So the work that I do helps people, as I said, again, regulate their nervous system, feel a sense of belonging, feel a sense of empowerment. And I'll give you a great example of taking somebody from victimhood to empowerment in one sentence.
Okay.
I was in a pain management program. I'd just gotten out of detox and I went into the classroom for the first day. So I'm still getting my sea legs. And I hear, and it's a pain management program. So all the people, there's 20 people in the room, we're all chronic pain people getting off medication.
Mm-hmm.
And the doctor says, I couldn't believe he said this, "What are you doing to contribute to your pain?" And I was like shocked. And my hackles went up. And it was all I could do not to say anything because I wanted to say, "How could you say that?" I was in complete victim mode. And I was like, in this room of all places, like how insensitive. That's where my brain went.
Yeah.
But in about half a second later, I went, "Hey, wait a minute. He just did it. What did he just say? What? He just opened up the possibility that I might be doing something to contribute to my pain." And he had my attention because he took me from victimhood to empowerment just like that. And that's where we need to go, right? We need to understand that
you're doing to contribute to your pain.
Yeah.
Or it's emotional, physical.
Yeah. We need to understand that we have agency and we have a role. And yes, I've broken bones and I've had this and that happen to me, and I had a divorce, and after I was off all those medications in my recovery, I had a divorce, and I've had deaths and all kinds of other things we feel all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But my limbic system and my nervous system are calm. And yes, they're reactive, but I'm able to weather those storms instead of being completely taken out by them.
Mm-hmm.
And in chronic pain, it's just everything.
The
drama is so high on a regular basis. That's a stress pattern. That's a stress pattern in the nervous system. Oh, we do life like this, right? And that's very caustic because we're not built to have that kind of a stress situation.
No, we're not. We're meant for quick stress, right? That fight or flight to kick in and then go back.
And then go back into balance. Yeah. And you talk about, and that's the other thing about alcohol and other addictions, but we'll talk about that one their effects are progressive.
Mhm.
So you might stop drinking. You might go, oh, I see my life is going to shit, pardon my French, and I need to stop drinking. And that's actually, I shouldn't say that. Pardon my language, because that's not about my language. I'm not going to blame them. Right? So my life is going downhill. I'm going to make a change. And you make a change, and then something happens, and they're not really able to cope with that. And they decide, oh, it's just easier to go back to drinking. Well, you know what happens? You start where you ended. So it's not like you go back to zero. You go back to wherever when you quit drinking the first place, maybe you're at a 50,
Mhm.
and then you quit, and you don't start back at zero. You start at 50, and then it just gets worse and worse. So,
Yeah.
so that's an issue. And the thing is, we're finding that people, they might not be drinking alcohol, but people that are regular sugar consumers are having behavioral problems as well. And there's another kind of Alzheimer's that's called like Alzheimer's 3.
They're saying Alzheimer's is basically like type 3 diabetes.
Yeah, that's
One of the recommendations
Yeah.
is very low glycemic diet.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Glycemic food. That's
Yeah.
what I have had to
And
make sure that
I'll just get real here for a minute. My father I saw him progressively becoming out. They were social drinkers. They called them social drinkers, right? And they would only drink after 5 o'clock. The bar would open. The problem is that there was no governor after 5. They just drank till it
Yeah.
was, till they decided to go to bed, and that wasn't pretty as a kid growing up in that. But here was what happened. The bar opened earlier and earlier.
Yeah.
And then there wasn't, and there was no closing of the bar kind of thing. And I saw and my dad had Alzheimer's, that was before they had a diabetic 3, type 3 diabetes, before that. But I was like, that you can't live with this behavior, Dad.
Yeah.
And so he died from secondarily from alcohol, because most it was the Alzheimer's. But my mom, on the other hand, she became diabetic but never went to the doctor.
Mhm.
And so she developed gangrene in her toes.
Oh God.
They had to excise those toes. And by the time she actually got to the doctor and they did that, it was still, they couldn't get it out of her system. And she ultimately died she had some kind of, I think she had like ovarian or pancreatic cancer. Actually, it was
Wow.
pancreatic would be the sugar related cancer, but it was the gangrene that was, nobody wants that. So I'm just saying that's real ugly what I just brought in, but we're getting real here. And it's
Yeah.
really important to understand the repercussions of this stuff are serious. This is
Absolutely.
not playing here.
No, my parents had parties all the time and they were fun, but everybody drank, right? And he had a terrible accident on his scooter. This was like 2005. And he ended up with brain injury. He didn't have a helmet on, got knocked off by some deer and drugged.
Oh.
And so he had this massive hematoma on his head. I remember when I got to the hospital. And he would go out on his pontoon boat with his girlfriend, who was like, let's say 9 years younger. And they would party out there all day. And he would drink about an 18 pack. And he used to make fun. He had a bar, he had a keg and everything. And they'd have a couple beers a night, right? And then mind you, he was in his 70s at this point. And the doctor said to me, your father drinks a lot. And I said, yeah, he goes and parties out on his boat. And he said, no, this is showing a lifetime of drinking. They said he is going to have major issues with recovery because the alcohol has done such an effect on his brain. Now, if you looked at him, he was retired. He loved life. He enjoyed, never know this because he was a quote social drinker, right? And his favorite thing because he never was the same again. He couldn't even get the enjoyment out of the pontoon boat. He sold that when he recovered. They had to retrain his speech.
Oh,
He had
boy.
lost his memory. He didn't know me when he woke up 2 weeks later. It was a long process.
Mhm.
And he was in Florida and I was in Montana, and I am trying to oversee everything from where I was and get him decent foods and stuff, make sure he had caretakers coming in. He would defy because he wanted pie and ice cream for breakfast. Now, I didn't understand about the sugar part.
Sugar.
Now, of course, he was also type 2 diabetic, he had become. So he was
Yeah.
on the metformin. And I said, Dad, you can't be eating this. You're diabetic. He's like, I'm almost 80 years old. I don't give a goddamn, that's exactly what he would say. But when you look at this connection between the sugar and the brain with dementia and Alzheimer's, because
Yeah.
that's what actually eventually took him as well. I couldn't control anymore what he was eating. I just couldn't. And it was sugar and sugar. And do you know that damn disease progressed so quickly?
Oh, boy.
So everything you're saying is just, wow, I'm resonating with this. And I didn't even until this podcast put that 2 and 2 together until you brought it up.
Oh,
So thank you,
wow.
because
Oh, you're welcome.
now it makes more sense to me why it went so quickly, why he never made that full recovery and that really quick decline.
Yeah.
After
I'll give
that.
you another view on that my acupuncturist shared with me. It blew me away. So sugar creates inflammation in the body.
Whoa.
So this is what we're talking about. We're talking about an inflamed body and an inflamed brain. So things don't work well there. And also, by the way, sugar's dehydrating. So now you don't have enough hydration for the cells to get, do what they need to do. So now we've got that going on. And my acupuncturist said to me, when you have inflammation in the body, like maybe I broke my wrist and inflammation from the swelling. She said, she was like reminding me, don't eat sugar. And I said, yeah, I got that. And she said, she put this as an underline. She said, when you have inflammation in the body and you eat sugar, it's like putting gasoline on the fire.
Oh, totally.
And I was like, oh my God. So that was, for me, it was like, that was check. I heard that.
And I always say the two, I said the alcohol's the hardest to give up. Then comes the sugar. People say, I can't give it up. Yeah, you can. You can, right? The more you tell yourself you can't, okay, if you tell yourself you can't, 100%. But if you walk away from it, you're going to have less and less. Do I eat sugar on rare occasions? Sure. It's never a refined sugar, but it's just so rare. And I don't get the cravings like I used to when I was
Exactly.
younger, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's this poison. Once you start, it's just going to keep on going. And it's no different than a detox from alcohol. Your body's going to rebel a bit. You go through a detox period, and then you come out and go, damn.
It's easier than alcohol, really, because you don't have seizures.
Yeah, that's true. Very true. Very true.
But there's a professor named Robert Lustig, who talks about metabolic syndrome. And you guys can look him up on YouTube. He's a great teacher, and he breaks down the whole territory of this is what sugar, this is on the level of Andrew Huberman and maybe a little bit higher because that's his area.
Mm-hmm.
He breaks down what's happening in the body with sugar, and he also helps you get off it. So he's not a specialist on getting off it, but he sends you in that direction. And I would really encourage people to listen to him because he's a doctor for the layman. He knows how to talk to doctors, but he knows how to talk to laymen too. And I love that about him.
Yeah, I'm very grateful. You said you have the science background. I don't, so I can get lost once I start hearing about all the rat studies and all of Okay, not only that, but I'm bored. I
I know.
need still a letter take. No, this is such a fantastic conversation, and I think one that really needs to be had. And I love how you're just real about putting it out there that this is what this stuff does. And again, like connecting the alcohol to the sugar. And we didn't talk a whole lot about epigenetics, but all of this basically is epigenetics, right? All of these behaviors are affecting genetics, turning on and off. So if you want to participate in behaviors that are destructive, you are likely turning up genes like potentially an Alzheimer's gene, cardiovascular risk, all of these things. You're likely turning those up or turning down some genes that are really good that these could be detrimental to.
Yeah, they're all switches. We're turning switches all the time with whatever
All
we
the
do.
time.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm,
So I say choices matter, and every choice you make has an outcome. Which outcome do you want it to be? Do you
Exactly.
want to live that full life, not in victimhood, right? And I think, and I've talked to a trauma person, Kate King, and we were talking about trauma bonding, and it just
Mhm.
allows people to stay in that victimhood
That's right. Yeah.
instead of the empowerment. And I've personally moved away from people that are in that, I can't go there because I chose not to stay there. If you want to live that full life, you have to start being real with yourself and be
Mhm.
conscious and aware of this is what's happening, and be aware of these choices that you're making because they matter. Yep.
Yes. And the fact that we have a choice to begin with, that for me was just because I thought that chronic pain was doing it for me for all this time. And then I found out there were tools, and I was like, oh my God, there's tools, and I have some agency here. This is amazing. And I learned because the brain and the body, the whole mind body system is incredibly responsive and intelligent. Now it has the energy of the past imprinted into it,
Huh? Huh?
but we heal in the present moment.
Amen.
So what I'm doing in this moment, is it helping me live a thriving life beyond the grip of addiction? Or is it feeding the old program and spinning me right back into it?
Yep.
And that's how we keep choosing. Our choices determine what's happening. It's
Yeah.
so important. I'm so glad you brought that in.
I love it. Yeah. I love it. I think this was a super impactful conversation that we've had here. And I hope, like I said, alcohol, drugs has affected likely every person listening in some way or another. It's touched them.
Mm.
And my hope in bringing this forward is that maybe there's some answers you can get. I just like you gave me that eye opener with my dad and why things progressed so much with the sugar and that. Oh my God, I didn't even think about that. It's so crazy. But just to maybe get some answers. And if there's someone out there that is dealing with chronic pain of any type, to get some help, to not go down this road to where you may bring something else in that you don't want to. You have the choice. And if you have kids, what do we want to show our kids? Our kids learn from us. How do you want to present and show them that choices matter and how to make the best ones? Be that example and be the strong person and get some help. Now, if people want to reach out to you, we will make sure that we have everything in the show notes, but how could they work with you?
Oh, you can find me at my website, which is Elizabeth with a dash, and then my last name, Kipp, KIP.com. You got to put the dash in there because ElizabethKipp.com is a web designer and a photographer. She's amazing. She's just not me. And all my, there's a lot of free resources there. All my social media is there. You can book a session through there. I do free introductory sessions. And there's books and there's all kinds of information there. So and you can contact me through there. You can just find me there, or you can look me up on social media.
Okay. And like I said, we'll have everything in the show notes. And The Way Through Chronic Pain, Tools to Reclaim Your Healing Power, your book, where is that available?
That's available on Amazon in paperback or Audible, or you can get an autographed copy from me.
Wonderful. Audible. Ooh, I like that. And I could listen to this, watch it while I'm doing my food prep.
There
That's
you
usually
go.
when I listen to my audio. That's just during food preps and walks. I love it. I love it. Yeah, you don't have to live with chronic pain, people. And if you're in addiction recovery, Elizabeth could be a super awesome resource for you. Just know that you don't have to stay where you are, that there's help out there. So get it. Please share this podcast. This is so important. You may be able to reach somebody that could use this help and make a whole difference in their life. Like I said, I love to save lives. And I think this could be a podcast that could help save somebody as well. So thank you so much for joining me, Elizabeth. This has been a fantastic conversation, and we shall chat again for sure.
Okay. Thank you so much, Susan. It's great to have a conversation with you today.
Absolutely. Thank you. So everybody get out there, be your most authentic self, and make it a great day.
Thank you for tuning into my podcast. If you enjoyed this week's episode, I'd love for you to share it with someone who'd find the information useful. Please leave a review anywhere you listen to podcasts, and it'll help the information get out to others. If you're interested in seeing if we're a great fit to work together, the link is in the show notes below, where you can sign up for a free consultation with me. So go make it a great day and let your authentic self shine.